The Obby genre has been becoming more complex over time, and the Obby Squad's reshuffled kit has adapted to the increasing complexity. Contributing to Obby Squads has become more difficult to understand as more features are added. This video serves aspiring builders to understand the different aspects of the kit. In this video, I will show you the steps to making an obby, from creating the place to creating a thread. Later in this video, each object will be explained. Step 0. The materials needed. When creating and submitting an obby, you will need the developer marketplace if you don't have version 4 kit already. The kit itself will be included below. You will also need Roblox Studio and Discord. Step 1. Creating your place. You are able to have multiple obbies in the same place. However, for kit version 4, there is less backward compatibility, so it is advised to create a new place if you're using kit version 4 for the first time. To create the place, select the modern baseplate. In the top left corner, press File. Select Publish to Roblox, give your place name, and enter. In the header ribbon, select Home, and then Game Settings. Set the access to everyone. Select Avatar, and then set the avatar type to R6. Step 2. Setting up your workspace. In the Explorer window, select Workspace. In the Properties window, find Streaming Enabled and disable it. Back to the Explorer window, select Material Service. In the Properties window, find and disable Used 2022 Materials. Select Starter Player. In the Properties window, you'll find Auto Jump Enabled and set to False. Step 3. Inserting the kit. In the Home ribbon, select Toolbox. Select the Inventory tab and drag the kit onto the baseplate. If you don't see the kit in your toolbox, use the link in the description or check the pinned message in the Submitter announcement channel to access the Studio Marketplace. Step 4. Organizing the kit. Basic navigation of the kit uses holding the Alt key to select objects under a group to get a specific part. If you have inserted and organized a kit already, you can delete the required tools object and move to the next step. Otherwise, continue. Inside the disabled script required tools, press the triangle to look at its descendants. To select multiple instances, hold the Control and click each object. You can let go of Control after selecting. Drag the tools Heal and NoClip into Starter Pack. Move Collision Script to Server Script Service. Drag Health into Starter Character Scripts. Drag Local Handler into Starter Player Scripts. Move Client Object Reset into Starter GUI. You can delete the required tools object afterwards. If you choose to add another kit, do not repeat the steps and instead delete the object. Step 5. Building with global base parts. The objects on the right of the kit are base parts. When building with them, either duplicate them using a Ctrl-C and a Ctrl-V. Right-clicking them with selecting the respective options, or by using the hotkey controls Ctrl and D. Move the parts in the Explorer to the Obby Contents folder found in the main group. For best practice, when creating large structures, group the individual structures together. Step 6. Building with the physics client objects. Physics objects are objects that are client-sided, but do not use any scripts. You can change the speed by looking at the cylindrical constraint motor and adjusting the angular velocity. Step 7. Building with scripted client objects. For this step, each scripted client object will be explained. For each object that you duplicate from this, insert the parent group into the main's extra scripts. It should be empty when you start. The first two are standard buttons and proximity buttons. When a button is pressed, parts are either enabled or disabled. A default button activated part becomes collidable when activated. In the attributes of this part, you can invert the option. The next section is the shared button. There are multiple buttons in which one button triggers all associated buttons. The same settings apply to the previous buttons mentioned. If you want these buttons to be global, inform which buttons you want to be made global in your submission. All future objects in the step cannot be made global. The next two objects are morphers. Instead of immediate activation, there is a delay set by the Tweens speed object. The first object is a static morpher, which keep their form until a partner button is pressed. You are able to have any amount of partner buttons, determined by the number of groups. Parts named goal are invisible and determine where parts will tween to. When testing, set the transparency to 1 to prevent texture overlapping errors. The next object are morphers, but there is an instance to adjust how long the parts stay until returning to their original position. For morphers and buttons, a decal in the global object section can be used to indicate that there is a button. The next object are conveyors. There are two examples of conveyors at different speeds. For reference, the standard walk speed is 16. The speed of the conveyors are adjusted by the speed attribute within the part. You are allowed to change the beam, but if you remove the beam entirely, you should indicate conveyors by the decal. The next object are one-way gates. The boulder side is the side that players are unable to pass through. The other side is the opposite. Since this mechanic is rare outside of the game, it is good to indicate this using an icon. The next object is the moving platform. It moves from the different points indicated by the number of parts. When adding more parts, rename the part to the next number. The next object is the teleporter. It teleports a player to another part. The next set of objects are pistons. These parts move from one end to the other. You can modify these in the attributes of the group. There are examples of augmentations to it, such as parts welded to it, one that constantly spins, an example of one that can pass through parts. The next two are touch platforms. When you touch it, the part moves to match the properties of its goal. The top one carries the player while the second one does not. The next group of parts are touch tweens. The first one shrinks. The second one fades away as a group. The third one rises upwards, and the fourth one fades away. The next two parts are state changers. The down part seats the player, and the up part forces the player to jump. The remaining objects are click activated. The first part fades away when you click on it. The other one fades in instead. Below that are grouped variants, which activate multiple parts at the same time. Next to it are grouped toggled ones. If you click on one of them, then each one inverts. Outside of that folder are killbricks. The main group has a folder for global and client-sided killbricks, using an example of a rotating part. Killbricks deal 50 damage with a half-second debounce. Some killbricks might be unclear, so an icon is provided to indicate killbricks. Step 8. Creating gameplay. The most important aspect about creating gameplay is sight readability. This refers to the ability for inexperienced players to understand the route of progression. It is important to playtest your obby before submitting it, even better if you do it before starting your design. Similar to this is flow. Once the player understands your obby over time, the player will encounter this obby over and over again. If it's uncomfortable to pass through an obby 4 times in a row, then you should look at areas where you come to a complete stop or slow down significantly. Overall, obby should be between 10 and 25 seconds to beat. Step 9. Creating design. Do not use generative textures. You can start off by creating design by recoloring and retexturing your gameplay. After that, if you're adding decorative parts, make it obvious that you cannot collide with them. This can be done by making them shorter than 2 studs or making them partially transparent. For a part limit, be reasonable with it. You are able to bypass the part limit by unioning objects, but make sure that it remains non-collidable. Step 10. Cleaning your submission. The model that you want to submit is the main group. If there are excess objects in the main group, please delete them. Your obby contents folder should be grouped depending on the different structures that you have. Step 11. Submitting your card. To submit your card, it is done through a Discord forum. A link to the Discord is provided in the description below. You can also access it through the game's attached links. A reviewer will eventually check your submission as there is no strict reviewing schedule.